Um, hey everyone, I'm Egoqueenalexis. Love me? I know you do. And today, we are going to be going over our Genestealer Cult Codex once again. Today we're taking a look at the Cult Creeds, which is essentially their chapter tactics, or their breakdown of their different chapters, orders, ordos. You get the point. This is the 6 different types of Genestealer Cult rules that you can get for your army or detachment, depending on how you want to mix and match this. Because a lot of people do realize that mixing and matching is really good, like taking High Fleet Kraken and High Fleet Yourmonger, or your mother, as I call it, because I'm from New York. Anyway, let's take a look at Cult Creeds and how they can affect your army. Hopefully this will go a little bit better, because this is actually like my first or second time reading this. Actually, it's like my 5th. But anyway, hopefully it's a lot better than the Sisters of Battle, where all of them were pretty much useless except for Bloody Rose and Eben Chalice, or Eben Chalice, or however you want to pronounce it. So, I'm not going to take a look at the army. We're just going to stand right here and I'm going to talk to you guys, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read this. I'm going to stumble on my words, because that's what I do. So, let's take a look at these. So, right off on the top, we have the Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor. Now, this is the cult that I make the most jokes about. Like, they just want to be in the forearms of the Emperor, meaning they want to hug, right? Right? No? Oh, okay then. So, let's take a look at what it does. First off, we get some fluff. Honestly, I haven't really read too much Genestealer Cult fluff, I will admit that. And apparently somewhere floating around, either a rumor or an actual thing, is that the Genestealer Cult can rebel against the Tyranids. I highly doubt it, but I would actually like to see that kind of story expanded. Like, what happens if a High Fleet Leviathan Genestealer Cult hits a planet and High Fleet Yourmonger shows up? Or High Fleet Behemoth, and they decide this cult isn't good enough and try to attack them, and the synaptic psyche is different somehow for reasons unknown, because Tyranids and bad writing, and they start fighting each other. It would actually be really cool, because the Genestealer Cult would have a full insight on the Tyranids and how to beat them, and the Tyranids would have full insight on them and how to beat them, so it would actually come down to an attrition warfare. And you might actually see Guard willingly help Genestealer Cult to fight off the Tyranids, and then be like, haha, holy crap, and start killing them. I think that would be really interesting, but that could just be me. So, let's actually dive into what the Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor does. Until the end of the first battle round, add 1 to the advance charge rolls made for units with this Cult Creed. Starting from the second battle round, if a unit with this Cult Creed is set up on the battlefield, then until the end of that turn, add 1 to the advance and charge rolls for that unit. That doesn't sound confusing at all. That doesn't sound like you're going to forget it halfway through the battle at all in any way, shape, or form. I know that I am, because I am very forgetful. In fact, I usually write down index cards, or write down notes, or usually cover my books in sticky notes to remember all of these things. It's really funny when you play multiple armies like I do, including Knights, Space Marines, Sisters of Battle, Tyranids, Genestealer Cult, Demons. You tend to run into some difficulties remembering everything. Let's play Custodians. I'm actually looking at them right now. They're just sitting there. So, in my opinion, this one could be useful if you remember it, but it's kind of a meh one, in my opinion. I can see its huge benefit, because running and advancing and charging are extremely important in the Genestealer Cult army, but at the same time, it's only 1. Let me just reread it. Add 1 to the advance and charge rolls made for units with this Cult Creed. So if you are doing a Genestealer Cult of mostly Genestealers, mostly close combat units, mostly aberrants and things of that nature, and you have the psychic powers to support the advance and charge rolls for the army itself, this can be extremely useful. It turns a 9-inch charge down to a 7-inch down to a 8-inch charge, which is still statistically unlikely as the average on 2d6 is 7, so you really want that Goldilocks zone of 7 inches to make the charge. Somebody's going to be asking what a Goldilocks zone is. You look that up. It's the planets the Genestealer cult wants to go to. Anyway, moving on, we have the Papa Princes. This is the one that I used in my battle report, which you can see hopefully on the side right over there. I'm probably pointing the wrong way. Anyway, this is the one that I used in my game because I figured that it was the easiest one to remember. And then I was kind of right. So what this one does is you can re-roll rolls for attacks with melee weapons with a unit with this cult creed in a turn in which it was charged or performed a heroic intervention. This one I think is slightly better than Four-Armed Emperor, simply because the Genestealer cult, if they fail that charge, are going to get charged in response, or they're just going to be blasted off the table. Either way, I like this one just a bit better because it makes the melee characters like the Abominant and the Primus and the Locust and all of the other melee characters and melee creatures really, really, really good in close combat. I think it's a little bit better than the +1 to charge distance, which in my opinion isn't really that great. I get it that it's good with Genestealers because they can advance and charge. Adding one and adding one again is really important because it's an extra 2 inches. But at the same time, 2 inches isn't very satisfying, so we have to deal with that. So this is the one that I actually did like, and I liked it a lot more, and I used it across my entire army in the previous battle report. That was to avoid confusion in the first battle report, but going forward you will see me start mixing and matching cults to gain the better rules and everything. I'm not trying to power game, as I view the cult as a fun army. Kind of like my custodians, where I just field things that I kind of want to field or things that I just happen to have. So with that in mind, just note that I'm not power gaming this. It's not my Sisters of Battle. I'm not going to go in with every single game trying to stomp face. I kind of do that with my sisters. It's because I like repressors. But anyway. This one's also really good because you have abilities in the codex itself that allow units to do heroic interventions for characters themselves. So I think this is really, really good because you can get the Abominants to actually charge into a unit if they miss that charge, which is extremely important. Because, well, let's face it, they're close combat units. They don't have guns. You want them in close combat as quickly as possible. And when you perform a heroic intervention, you cannot be the target for attacks because you are not declared the target. Unless, of course, your opponent did declare the target, multiple targets didn't get to you, and then you piled in using heroic intervention, in which case they can, but I digress. That's semantics. Usually people charge one unit or multiple units, and then you heroically intervene with your character and hope that he wasn't declared as part of the charge, and then you get that charge in on them, and you get the extra attacks and everything. So if that wasn't confusing enough, let's move on to the next one so I can confuse you more. Just remember, all of this confusion is perfect. Spread this confusion around, especially to your local politicians, so that your planet becomes unaware as we arise and take power. I mean, what? No, that's not our plan at all. Shh, no. Don't worry. Just drink the lemonade, drink the Kool-Aid, walk down the Stark Alley. You'll be fine. Don't worry. The next one is the Hive Cult. Huh. Just the Hive Cult. I think that one's... Hey Tony, what cult do you belong to? Oh, the Hive Cult. Yeah, which one? We live on a hive world. The Hive Cult. Wow, that's amazing name. I'm sure they do great. There are actually worker cults and unions all throughout hive cities and everything. And not unions as in we know them today, unions as groups of people who just, well, they're gangs, but they call themselves unions. But anyway, there are gangs all throughout Necromunda and all throughout multiple hive cities. Most workers belong to a gang, and most citizens kind of belong to certain gangs depending on where they are in the hive city. Gangs can either be just protecting each other, or they can be full-out gang warfare, like on Necromunda itself, and on Desolium, and on almost every Imperial world. If a unit with this cult creed flees, let me try that again. That was a tongue twister for me. I don't know why it was a tongue twister for me, but it was, and now I'm confused. Anyway, if a unit with this cult creed fails a morale test, have the number of models that fled rounded up. In addition, units with this cult creed can still shoot in the turn in which they fell back. But if they do so, they must subtract 1 to the hit rolls in the shooting phase. Well, I mean, we're going to be using hand flamers because they are dirt cheap. So your Acolyte hybrids are going to be using hand flamers. This is really good if you're going full Acolyte lists, like big giant units of 10, 6 squads of them rushing into battle. It's good, but at the same time it's kind of meh a little bit. But it does make it so that you do get your morale and you don't lose as many models to morale. But as we've noticed with this edition, morale is not really that important, especially being that there's stratagems to help you out, there's characters to help you out, and there's, well, min squad units that are just really good at avoiding morale. Overall, I think this one is a skip, but a lot of people have pointed out that they do like taking giant blobs, and that this is good for that. So if you are the type of person that likes taking huge blobs of infantry, just massive blobs of infantry, this might be the creed for you. But I do think that we only stop at like 10 to 15. I mean, if you're taking Genestealers, it's there. There's better ones. So moving on, the Bladed Cog. That's literally a codpiece. I can't do this. I cannot make this up. Really? The Bladed Cog. Out of everything they could have named it. Like, the Rusted Cog would have been great because it would have been, you know, or this, one of the ones that I made for a Genestealer cult on a planet during an RPG game was the Cracked Cog, because it's a chip in the machine, and there they are destroying everything. But not the Bladed Cog. That's literally a cod piece. I'm sorry. I'll stop, I promise. All models with this cult creed have a 6+ invulnerable save. Amazing. Just amazing. That's it. This one is amazing. Every single model on the field has a 6+ invulnerable save. Okay. Models with the cult creed that already have an invulnerable save, improve it by 1. Genestealers with a 4-up invulnerable save. Okay, you know what? The cod piece is actually really good. Apparently it's one of the best. This is the one that everybody should kind of take, maybe. It gives everybody 6+ invulnerable save. This is really good on Aberrants and Genestealers, which, as you guys know, the Aberrants can reduce damage and then roll saves for Feel No Pain on top of it. Alexis, what's Feel No Pain? Oh, it's that rule where if you take a wound, you roll a die and determine the number and then go, hey look, I avoided the damage. Still Feel No Pain. But anyway, I'm going to call it Feel No Pain. That's what they have. Anywho. It's really good on Genestealers. 4-up invulnerable saves on huge blobs of Genestealers is amazing. Or even min squads of Genestealers, just enough to annoy your opponent, is always really good. And I love annoying my opponents. I love making my opponents overestimate the amount of firepower that they're going to need to take down a unit. Especially if you're taking like 5 acolytes, acolyte hybrids, and all of a sudden he dedicates a tactical squad because for some reason he's playing a tactical squad and you're just sitting there like, boo, you know that Primaris Marines are a thing, right? And he's just like, I hate Primaris Marines, they go against the lore. And you're just like, uh-huh. Cool on you. Anyway. This is really good for making your opponent overestimate the amount of firepower that they're going to need to take down a unit. Especially something like Aberrants. Aberrants with a 6+ save on top, and granted it is only a 1 in 6, let's face it, it's not that great. But still, it is a 6+ invulnerable save. My Sisters of Battle have proven multiple times that 6+ saves are the greatest thing, their greatest asset. So it forces your opponent to overestimate how much firepower they're going to need to take down a unit, and then on something like Aberrants that have Feel No Pain, they're going to ignore a lot of it. So Aberrant units with this, Genestealers with this are going to be incredible. The Rusted Claw. Now this I actually like. That sounds pretty cool. That sounds very tech marine-y, or techy. There we go. That's a word. Anyway, when making saving throws, excluding invulnerable saving throws, okay, it's already bad. For models with this Sculpt Creed, add 1 to the result of the weapon used to make the attack that has an armor penetration characteristic of 0 or -1. In addition, biker models with this Cult Creed do not suffer the penalty to their hit rolls for moving and shooting heavy weapons for advancing and shooting assault weapons. So the Rusted Claw is really good for jackal armies. Jackal armies being the bikers and the cars and the Ridge Runner and things of that nature, although I have determined in my battle report that Ridge Runners with anything, the missile launcher is completely useless. Don't take the missile launcher. Take the mining laser or take the mortar. And if you take either of those, you're just going to move up to midfield with the mining laser. Actually, no, it's 36-inch range. You don't even have to move. You literally just let your opponent come out of the deployment zone and pop. Anyway, if you do have to move, it's worth it for that. But I do like the 6+ saves on bikes, because 6+ save on bikes is better than +1 damage, I think it is, +1 AP. When making saving throws, excluding invulnerable saving throws for model with this Cult Creed, add 1 to the result of the weapon being used to make the attack has an armor penetration characteristic of 0 or -1. It's okay. It's not great. I think it's cool. But overall, I think the 6+ invulnerable save is going to be the one that everybody goes to. Either that or the popper so far. Yeah. The Twisted Helix. Add 1 to the strength characteristics of model with this Cult Creed. In addition, add 2 to the advanced rolls with this Cult Creed. So this one's already better than the Four-Armed Emperor immediately, because it adds that 2 inches. There it is, right there, boom, every single turn, done. For advanced rolls. It doesn't add it for charging. So I would take the 2 inches for advanced rolls with my Genestealers, but at the same time, I really like the 4-up invulnerable save for the Genestealers. So that's all the Cult Creeds and everything, and I think it's pretty obvious which 2 that I like, but I want you guys to share your thoughts and your comments in the comment section down below. While down there, check out the description for this video. You can follow me on social media, Patreon, as well as a few other thingamajigs. But I want to hear your thoughts and your overview of each of the Cult Creeds. Which one do you think is the best? Which cult is the one that you fall under? And I don't know. What is your army list? What is it that you're going to be pushing forth in the future for your Genestealer cult? Me, I want bikers, and I have a ton of them coming. Well, actually not a ton of them. I have 2 boxes coming. And that's about it. I also have 3 jackals, because I like jackals. The jackal alphas. I really like that. Stay tuned for the next video where we start going over each individual unit, starting with the HQ choices. And I think I know where I want to start. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was informative for you. I'm Alexis, the Northern Queen. I love you guys. Bye.